Hi everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight, the horror movie podcast here on the Melfuzz Podcast Network. Alright, so this is a horror movie podcast, and we talk about horror movies, sometimes from the past, and
And the present.
sometimes to the present. And
Welcome.
this week, of course, we wanted to squeeze in an extra episode because we wanted to talk about The Conjuring before The Conjuring 2 hits next week, which we're obviously going to be doing next week. We're going to be covering The Conjuring 2. So,
Obviously, I'll see it first. You'll see it later.
well, yeah, it's out in the US on Friday and it's out in the UK on Monday, so yes, I will see it later. I don't know what your point was, Tim. Did you have one?
I think a real horror fan would see it as early as possible, but whatever. Especially when it takes place in their own backyard. But hey,
It's
now.
not my fault they're not releasing it till 3 days later. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, Tim, your standards are hurting my soul.
So is that like a thing on the UK right now where like Monday's the new Friday?
Do you know what? I don't. It literally only started like a month ago. Like Warcraft and Turtles 2 were released on Mondays for some
Wow.
reason, and then Conjuring 2 is happening. There's another one in a few months that are like I noticed as well. I don't know why they're doing it. It's really weird. It's creeping me out because it's always been Friday. It's always been the same as the US. It's always been the Fridays.
See, I mean, with Warcraft and Turtles, you just had to imagine it's because they sucked. But like, The Conjuring 2 actually, like, hey, we're kind of hoping this is gonna be good. I don't know.
Especially since you think the weekend audience would be a big deal. Although
Yeah.
technically, the official release date's actually the following Friday, but
Mhm.
my cinema chain is showing it from the Monday, so I don't know if it's just like a special thing for that one. And we technically
Mhm.
have it a week late, but I'll still see it in time for the podcast, so it doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
So I don't know, it's weird. But yeah, so that's
Well,
what's happened. So,
regardless, I will have seen it first. Thank you.
alright, Tim, have a medal. There you go. Have a badge. You can pin it on your little scout uniform.
You were gonna say penis, weren't you?
No,
I saw you thinking it,
I wasn't saying penis. What are you talking about?
but I was thinking you were gonna think it.
Okay. But yeah,
You don't know what I'm wearing underneath.
so
The camera only goes so far.
so Conjuring 2 is next week. So we wanted to cover Conjuring 1 because we never spoke about it on this show.
Technically, it's just called The Conjuring, but yes.
So we're going to talk about The Conjuring, and I think we will start this spoiler free just in case you've not seen it, and you're thinking about catching up in time for the second one, and then we'll put up a spoiler wall as we've been doing. So spoiler free for now. But yeah, so it's based loosely on a true story, about Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are these.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was gonna say I do want to get into that later, but that'll
Okay.
come after we talk after the spoilers.
Yes, yes, okay.
Because I did some research this week.
Oh,
Actually.
yes, yeah, you're actually well informed this, but you went and researched the real people, so you know more than I do about this shit. But specifically this, not horror in general, I just want to point that out.
Oh, it's like you read my mind. You knew I wanted to say something.
Yeah, I knew where you were going with that. I knew where you were going with that. So yeah, it's based on this true story about Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are these paranormal investigators. They are a couple who, throughout the 60s and 70s and maybe 80s, I don't know how long it lasted, they basically went and investigated paranormal shit and helped with exorcisms and all sorts of shit like that. And they wrote about it in books later and whatever. And this is about one such case in 1971 where a family of five daughters and their parents are tormented by some sort of paranormal entity, and
Bathsheba.
that's the setup of the movie. Pretty straightforward actually.
Actually, what's kind of funny is this movie actually takes place in my backyard. Like
It
literally,
does.
I'm from Rhode Island,
Yeah.
and this takes place in Harrisville, Rhode Island, which I've never been, but I don't think it was too far from Woonsocket. I actually had a friend though that like used to go fishing in the lake, I think that's around there, and he said he saw the house before, but never realized like that it was that house.
Oh,
But
interesting. Um, just
fun
just to
little fact.
just to clarify something Tim said, the second one is not technically in my backyard because I am not from England. I want to point that out.
Close enough.
No, it's not close enough. If you can't recognise my accent, I'm Scottish. I'm from Scotland.
If you can swim there, it's close.
I don't have. I don't have to swim. I can walk.
Even closer.
Swimming would be to Ireland, I guess. That would be the one you'd swim to.
Ah, yes, the Emerald Isles, as I call it.
Wait, didn't you call Scotland the Emerald Isles a couple of weeks ago?
They're all isles of varying emeraldness,
Oh god,
as far as I'm
we're
concerned.
off on a weird tangent already. Right, back to the movie. Back to
So,
the
what is a
Conjuring.
conjuring?
I don't have an exact definition for you. I would assume a conjuring would be when you conjure a spirit of some kind. Technically though, no one conjures them in this movie, so I'm assuming there's a slightly different context to it.
Hmm.
Do you have an answer for me, Tim?
Not at all.
I'm glad you brought it up then. You made us
You're
both
welcome.
you made us both look like idiots. I don't know what your goal is here, Tim, but
So what's kind of interesting is this movie actually starts off with like it almost has like a little mini ghost story at the beginning.
yeah, that's right. It starts off with to introduce the concept of, well, ghosts, I guess.
In case you aren't familiar with what
Well,
they are.
but really, it's to introduce the fact that in
Mhm.
Lorraine Warren have had these different cases. So we start off with this little short story of the Annabelle doll, which of course got its own spin off, which we've not covered, but I'll spoil my thoughts on it. It's fucking shit. Don't bother watching it. Um, but so we get this little.
So it kind of sucks because this opening part with Annabelle I thought was very compelling. Actually, I really like this opening.
I think it's good because it's short. I think the
Hmm.
problem with the other movie is, well, part of the problem with the other movie is that when you take this idea that was clearly, you know, picked for this purpose of introducing the movie, was picked because, oh, it's something you can do, but it's essentially a short little film,
Hmm.
and then you stretch it out to, nearly 2 hours. I think that's where problems start creeping in. But
Yeah.
so it's basically used to show that we've got this past, that Ed and Lorraine Warren have got this past, and they're actually, it comes out and you see that they're actually giving like a lecture at a university
Hmm.
about their different cases. It introduces to them before we're introduced to the family who move in. And the kind of weird thing about this movie is it's got like a, normally in these types of movies, you focus on one of two things as your protagonists.
Hmm.
You focus on the family that's been haunted, and the paranormal people that come in to try and help are very much the side characters who you don't even see until they meet the family.
Hmm.
Or you focus on the paranormal people, and it's just a case they get. Whereas this movie kind of does both, where you kind of like you meet them, you meet the Warrens, and you meet the family, and you kind of in tangent, not tangent, uh,
In tandem.
in tandem. Thank you. See them like throughout the opening act of the movie or so before their paths cross, meaning you kind of care about both, which is interesting. Uh, it makes sense. It makes sense to follow the Warrens because if you're going to do a sequel, and they are, it would be them you're going to be in the sequel with, and it makes
Yeah.
sense to care about the family because if you don't care about the family, then the movie doesn't work.
Yeah, and I like the way that it's done in this movie. It kind of makes the world feel more realized. Like, a lot of times with horror movies, you're kind of confined to this one location, this one summer camp, this one mansion or, house or whatever. This, it kind of gives the sense that there's like a larger world, involved in it, which I thought was kind of cool. And I found like both characters to be interesting. Like, I find the I think the stuff with the family probably like a little more interesting, but I also really like the stuff with the Warrens
Mm,
and like
yeah.
their story.
So, yeah, so basically the family move in and creepy shit starts happening of a variety of ways, which won't get into specifics until we talk about spoilers, but
Mhm.
and then eventually the Warrens to come in, and the funny thing about The Conjuring is that it's a very typical supernatural movie, really, where shit's happening, figure out what the ghosts want or why they're tormenting the family, and try and fix it, and you have your investigators who set up devices to try and capture things, and I don't think in terms of plot it really does anything that different to other movies I've seen.
No, I think this is just an example of it's not necessarily doing something new or breaking the mold, but you know, I don't really want to say it's like hacky or cliche either. Like it's yeah, kind of standard haunted house fare, but I feel like it does it very well.
Yeah, no,
Mm.
I think that's the main thing here is that it's well directed, and I think right from the start of the movie, when the family moves out of the house, there's two very long tracking shots that I really liked.
Mhm.
When the family pull up in the car, the camera is behind the window in the house,
Mhm.
and it pans over to the door as the family get out of the car and come over to the door. And then there's a long tracking shot following the kid as she's going through the entire house. It goes on because she like runs under the couch as the movers are carrying it in, and the camera
Uh,
follows her under the couch,
mhm.
and just like you get this sense of space of where the house is, what's around the house, both the front and the back.
Mhm.
Um, and it really again it makes you feel real and feel lived in.
Yeah,
So, and
and
I guess we spoke so much about the terrible editing from the last movie, The Darkness, that this it was refreshing to go into this and see actual like editing and actual camera work and
yeah. I guess I don't think we mentioned it yet, but it's directed by James Wan,
yep, James
uh,
Wan, yeah.
who it's kind of cool. I was thinking like I feel like nowadays we don't have as many of those like kind of like big franchise directors like back in the day like you had like Wes Craven and John Carpenter and stuff, and I was trying to think if we had any like kind of modern equivalents, and I guess like James Wan would kind of be the closest thing. Well, I don't necessarily like all his work. Like I really like the Insidious movies, and at least this first Conjuring. Haven't seen the second one yet. Obviously, comes out this Friday. But you know, I don't know if he's getting away from horror. Because he did the Fast and the Furious, and then I don't know if he's still definitely doing Aquaman or if they're having
He's still scheduled
issues.
right as of now. He's still scheduled to do Aquaman, but yeah.
Which I'm interested in, but I hope he doesn't totally leave horror behind because he seems to you know have a pretty good eye for
I
for
don't think he will.
whatever he
I
wants
think
to.
there's a reason why he snuck Conjuring 2 in between Fast 7 and Aquaman, which is presumably he's doing next. Because you can
Mhm.
make horror movies a bit quicker, because they tend to be smaller films, and you can kind
Mhm.
of get them out quickly without sacrificing any quality, as long as you know what you're doing. And James Wan's proven to know what he's doing quite a bit,
Yeah.
I think. Um, and no, so yeah, it's kind of a typical supernatural movie in that sense, but there's a lot of neat little tricks. There's a lot of cool ideas. There's a without getting to spoilers yet. There's a scene with a clapping game which is used quite
Mhm.
well.
Yeah, I
Um,
like that a lot.
there's some nice camera work where the camera sort of turns upside down as someone's looking under a bed, and then it spins up
Mhm.
the right way as they get up. And there's little things like that just spliced throughout it, just to give it this its own sort of unique uh, flavor. And one
Mhm.
thing that happens in here, which to a much smaller extent than it was in Insidious, and a big part of why I love Insidious, and I do like Insidious more than I do this,
Mhm.
um, is how much mythology Insidious has, and how it really builds this supernatural world around everything that's going on. You really get this sense. This does a little
Mhm.
bit of that, not as much, but you do get this sense as the movie goes on. Is like, who are the ghosts? Why are they there? Are they all there together? Is there more than one ghost? Are they, you know, is one ghost the result of another ghost? Like, you get this cool backstory that comes into it that um
Yeah.
makes it feel like it's more it's more than just the simple, oh, there's a demon in the house trying to possess someone, you
Yeah.
know. So that's pretty cool. Some really nice moments like that. So I don't think there's much we can say without getting into spoilers now, to be honest, because
I mean, I think it's pretty obviously made made it clear how we feel about it.
yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
solid haunted house movie essentially.
Yeah. I would imagine most people have probably seen it by now, but I mean, if for some reason you haven't, it's definitely well worth the watch.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I think you could watch the second one without seeing the first one, and that's just a
Oh yeah.
hunch, because it feels like it's just going to. I mean, it's the same two characters that are solving the case, as it were, but I don't think the plot of this one will have much of a impact on the second one.
Which is kind of cool. The the way it's done, like I don't know, it almost makes it seem like they're making their own like shared universe, like
Do you know, it's
in a way.
funny you say that because the reviews for the second one have implied that the second one does a lot to set up things that could
Oh, really?
happen like that. I read one review that said it was the Avengers of horror movies. And this was a positive review. They weren't condemning it. They were saying no, it actually sets up a lot of cool stuff that could be explored.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome. I love that idea because I mean,
but I'm
yeah,
really
like,
shocked you got that from the first movie though.
well, I mean, I'm kind of looking at it now. Well, if you look at just the first movie, you know, you have the well, it's hard from going back in time because I'm using the knowledge that we have in the present. So obviously, you have the Annabelle spinoff, and then at the end they have a reference to Amityville Horror, which is another like real life case that the Warrens looked into. And then obviously we have like the sequel now. So like if you count Amityville, that's already kind of like four movies in this universe.
I wouldn't really count Amityville. I know that it's a reference to it, and I'm sure they could do the Conjuring
Yeah.
3, which is actually just a story of Amityville. They
Hmm.
could do that. Or they could just do a new Amityville horror that connects to it. But it's kind of like how I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example where
Like
like
how they.
there's a new Archie TV show coming out, right?
Mhm.
Now technically Sabrina the Teenage Witch takes place in Archie, but I wouldn't say the old Sabrina TV show is in the same universe as the new
Right.
Archie show.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
No,
that.
I gotcha, but it's still just like kind of using that as an example. It just makes it seem like, uh, again, that there's more going on in this universe and the potential for other movies or whatever to
Yeah,
tangentially
there is
connect or whatever.
potential, and it's one of the things that I'm really hoping for with the second one is it building on the mythology beyond just the simple case. Because I do really like this movie, but
Mhm.
I don't love it as much as Insidious, and I think it's because Insidious did a lot for me in terms of what it built.
I think the big difference is that like Insidious seemed a little more unique. It was uh, doing something kind of different, like where you hadn't really seen that kind of story before where it's like, oh, it's not the house that's haunted, it's your boy, and then they have this whole other world that they go into and shit. So I feel like that was kind of like a little more unique thing where, like this, like we said, it does things very well, but it's not necessarily, something that we've never seen before. Like essentially it's just a haunted house movie. A good haunted house movie, but yeah, there isn't really anything specifically like, oh, that's never been done before.
Yeah, yeah. Full of great moments. So definitely worth checking out if you want to catch up in time for the second one that's coming out
Yeah.
this week slash next week, depending on when you're
Mhm.
where you are and when you're watching or listening to this.
This week
Um,
for me, next week for you.
yeah, shut up, Tim. Uh, I don't even mind that much. I can wait till Monday. It's fine. But yeah, so we're going to go into spoilers now. So full spoilers for The Conjuring if you've not seen it. And sometimes when the movie's bad, I say don't care, just hear the spoilers. But this one, I'd say that actually go watch the movie.
Yeah.
But so full spoilers now from this point on. And so, what did you think of the ghost then, and where the ghost came from, and what the other ghosts that were kind of tangentially there?
I thought it was interesting. So the main ghost we have is this lady named Bathsheba, I guess.
Or I
Uh,
couldn't remember names. I was going to call the witch, but
I think the only reason I actually know that because they do mention the name in the movie, but it's one of
they,
those things.
they do mention it, and I remember it now that you've said it. But I would never have
Yeah,
remembered that had.
the only reason why I know those because again I was looking up the like stuff on the real life story and they mention it. So, um, but it actually goes back to this kind of era that I like and find very creepy, which is kind of like the I guess kind of like early 1800s America when like everything was kind of new and rural and you know uh, you had these kind of like weird backwoods people and um, So it felt very reminiscent of that, and I always kind of like that time period. I was kind of creepy, and I like stories that harken back to that. Um, but I thought she was like a good villain in like the times. She shows up. I thought a pretty creepy. Um, One of my favorite scenes is in the movie is um when the girl's in front of the dresser, and I think the other girl's like talking to her, and she's like saying like, oh, like look, the she's here or the ghost is here or whatever, and she's like, where? And then she like looks up and she's just like on the dresser, and then she just like
Mm.
pounces on her. um I like that she felt like a very physically menacing ghost. Like a lot of times, you know, there might be a ghost and it's creepy, but maybe it'll just kind of be standing there or making noises or doing stuff that, you can't really see or hear that well. But this is like a fucking ghost that will attack you. Like, it jumps on people and stuff.
It does. It grabs girls by the hair and like drags them around the room and all that. Oh, I do have to
Yeah.
put. This isn't so much a criticism as it is just a weird observation, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know, the middle daughter, I think, middle or second oldest, I don't know, but
Mhm.
it's the two girls in the room that sleep in the beds, right?
Right.
And the one of them keeps getting pulled, her feet keep getting pulled
Oh, yeah.
at the bottom of the bed, and this is just a weird observation on my part, but she's always sleeping on top of her like covers. She only has like this little like small one that she's actually covering herself with, and her feet are always like sticking out, and I'm like, as a human being who sleeps, my feet get cold if I don't, maybe not right away, but I find that once your body cools down when you sleep,
Yeah.
you always get cold, and you need
Mhm.
that's why you have covers, because you need them after a little while because your body cools down. Even I think it's like far too warm right now. I am miserable right now at the heat, but once I kind of fall asleep, I still need my covers because it gets cold or I feel colder.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It's just an observation that like I feel like that's only like that because we need to see our feet getting pulled. You know,
Yeah, fair enough.
it's not a big deal. It's a small thing. I'm
No,
just
yeah, definitely not. I didn't notice it. I think if I had noticed it, yeah, it'd probably bother me a little bit too. But yeah, it's in the grand scheme of things.
that said, the actual motion of her getting pulled was actually pretty cool,
Yeah,
and like I say, the scene when she looks under the bed, and then the camera spins as she comes back up. It's really cool.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, one thing that I like James Wan does, and can kind of link this back to like the Insidious movies and this and stuff, is like yeah, it seems like he has like a lot of really cool and interesting visuals in his movies. And I don't know how much like like CGI versus like practical stuff, but like a lot of things in it, feel like done very practical, which is always cool and refreshing. And there's not just like a big like CGI monster or something that's attacking them.
no, I agree. I agree. Obviously, there's some other ghosts that pop up. The other victims, as it were, of this witch who's cursed the land, and the ultimate plot is that she possesses the mother to kill the child, or at least one of the
Mhm.
children. She's got five to pick from in this case, so spoil it for choice.
I think it was like the youngest like she was trying to kill.
Yeah.
It seemed like.
Well, she's trying to kill the youngest two, I think. She took the two
Oh
youngest.
yeah, she just took two of them, and then like one was waiting in the car while.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Um, but that's where the plot goes. I think I I like how I like the investigative part of it. I like the Warrens coming in and like immediately knowing they're not full of bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, because when they come in, because they show you that scene that I actually really like, where they're at another house investigating something, and he rationally explains what the noise is. He's like, "Oh, it's just the wind hitting this floorboard that's creaking and it's going through the pipes, and that's why you're hearing it." And he
Yeah.
and I like that they will just like point out the things when it's not a ghost or it's not something supernatural. So when
Yeah.
they immediately go into this house and they start mentioning things, like they mention the smell, they mention these specific
Mhm.
things, like they instantly on their faces, like know these are all real signs. This isn't just them being kind of creeped out because they're hearing noises, you
Mhm.
know. And I like that. I like that they take it seriously immediately, and it's not. And another thing that I'm happy this movie didn't do, which a lot of these supernatural movies do, is where one character will believe something's going on, and usually the man is the one that's the skeptic and is like, no, 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 don't be foolish, and they won't believe it for ages.
Yeah.
Uh, we don't have that here. It just we get to it.
Yeah, I like it felt like a little more authentic that way because yeah, I feel like I mean, granted this probably happens a lot of times in real life where someone sees something and the other person doesn't realize it, but you know, with all the craziness that was going on, it definitely felt like yeah, it would have been a little forced for him to be like, "Oh, come on, you know, you're crazy."
And this is another weird thing, right? Because I know it's based on a true story, and there was five daughters, but I feel like for the movie's sake, they could have trimmed it down to maybe three daughters, just to.
Yeah, that like especially like the older daughters didn't really feel that consequential.
Yeah, the oldest one didn't really have anything to do.
Yeah.
I think there was also one of the ones in the middle that didn't really have anything. There was one whose feet get pulled. There was the very young one who's seen the boy, and those
Hmm.
were the only real two that had like
Like
proper plot, like
yeah,
involvement. The other three were just kind of there to be scared and
yeah.
play with each other and stuff. So you could have probably boiled it down to three of them instead of five of them. But again, then it's not authentic, I suppose. But I mean, I would debate how authentic this actually is. I mean, I like the movie, but you know, when I see based on a true story and it's a horror movie, I have to be skeptical at you
Oh yeah.
know, like all this they show the girl getting dragged about with her hair, in one scene, and all I'm thinking is, I bet a table nudged an inch. Like
Yeah.
that's what actually happened. Come on, that's not.
Well, yeah, I'll get into some of that stuff that I learned kind of more towards the end. Um, but one thing I was interested to see what you thought about if I had maybe like one gripe, and it's not even like really that big a deal, but it seemed like they kind of added like a lot of people towards the end that kind of felt like unnecessary, like that cop and that like photographer or documenter or college student or whatever. It kind of felt unnecessary
Do you know? I
to me.
I like them.
Hmm.
Um, I can I do get what you're saying. I feel like the movie should have introduced them. Well, we did see him. So we seen the college guy, the Asian guy. We
Yeah.
seen him when they first met the Warrens, but
Mhm.
I feel like they should have introduced them into the main picture sooner,
Yeah.
because I actually really like the idea of them like being around the house and trying to catch things
Mhm.
on film and stuff. I do kind of wish there was an extra like 10-15 minutes of that in the middle, which might have upset the
I
pacing. So maybe we should have
yeah.
maybe cut other things from other places. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like something like that was needed because they're like, it's not like I hated the characters. It just seemed like they kind of came out of nowhere. And then the the college kid makes me laugh because he's the one that kind of puts the like kid in danger towards the end
Yeah,
because
because he
he's the one.
shouts out where
Yeah,
she is. Yeah,
she's under the floor, and then you just see the mother who's possessed, like, oh okay, and then like runs after her.
yeah, yeah, mm, yeah. So yeah, ultimately I don't have much more to add. I don't think. I think it's a good, solid haunted house movie. But I do have
Yeah,
to say, I don't think it does anything spectacular plot wise.
yeah,
Um, and I'm really interested in the sequel because I think the sequel could take it and make it a franchise that I really care about.
yeah. If actually one other tiny kind of thing that I don't know if I want to say complaint or just something that maybe I wasn't a huge fan of or thought was a little cheesy, but like the Warrens themselves, they were like a little too trying to think what's the word like I don't know like they felt like a little too cheesy at times like just like you know like they're very very Christian and then you know just kind of like seemed like that. I don't know they had too much like of a perfect relationship or something where yeah like they'd kind of be like you know I can't let you do this but I'm like we're in it together. God brought us together for a reason. And I was kind of like I'm like maybe that's what they're like in real life so maybe that's kind of why they did
Maybe
it but
I
to
I get what you're saying. I didn't really bother me because I feel like I would have been annoyed had they added in too much of like drama with them, like between
yeah
them. If that like so. I get what you're saying, but on the other hand, I think if they tried to do something with them like that, it might have been annoying because it would have detracted from what was going on in the movie.
Yeah, it's not like it was like super rampant and again like just a small minor quibble or whatever, but just every now and again there are a few parts where they'd have a line like that and it kind of makes me like roll my eyes a bit.
Hmm. All right, so you wanted to talk about some of the actual real stuff.
Well, just some stuff that I thought was interesting. I was just looking up like some interviews and stuff on YouTube. Now, what I think the funniest thing, um, and I mean, in real life, whatever happened, it isn't really funny, but uh, I just think it's kind of interesting is listening to the one of the sisters who's like all grown up now and talking about her experiences in the movie. I don't know how long it covers, but it makes it seem like it's a matter of like days or weeks. Like they
Few
move
weeks,
in,
few weeks,
yeah,
I'd say.
move in. Some weird stuff starts happening. The Warrens come in and kind of clean everything up, and then happy family. Uh, but according to the sister in the book that she wrote, she says that that's really not the case. They basically were like tormented for like 10 years, and she says that the Warrens came and only stayed for like maybe like a few days, and they basically didn't get rid of the ghosts. They just made them angrier and like more violent. So I just think it's funny that like in the movie they're like the heroes that save the day, but in again take it for a grain of salt. Who knows what really happened in the real life story? But at least according to this person, they were the ones who kind of like instigated and like really drove the ghosts and demons crazy.
That's amusing, actually. I don't blame them. They have to make it into a movie, and a movie doesn't necessarily need a happy ending, but you need to have. But given that they obviously thought, oh, maybe we might have franchise potential here, they have to make those two
Yeah.
into heroes so they can do another movie with them, and you want to see them, go and solve
Right.
another case. So
Also, Lorraine Warren was a consultant on the movie, so she's probably
yeah,
gonna.
yes, we were heroes on this. Uh, yes, we're angels. Nothing wrong with us. We're perfect, perfect in every way.
Actually, the book that the sister wrote, I think it's called like House of Light, House of Darkness, and it kind of chronicles their whole, um, you know, dealings with the paranormal. But it sounds pretty interesting. I'd like to read it at some point.
Oh, I thought about one thing that I wanted to kind of praise the movie for.
Okay.
How many movies in the last, year that we've been doing this show have we complained that do that stupid jump scare at the end when it cuts to the credits?
Oh, right. Yeah.
This one teases it and then doesn't do it. It just goes to credits.
Yeah, I
I
love that.
appreciate that so much. So much. It just goes quiet, cut to
Yeah.
credits. Ominous. It's
Uh,
ominous.
and it's so much creepier than like a jump scare.
It is. It's much creepier.
Yeah.
Much creepier. So, kudos
Um,
to that.
One scene we didn't really talk about. Well, we kind of mentioned it in the spoiler-free zone, but I like the clap and go seek sequences,
Mm.
which is a game I never even heard of. I don't know if that's a real game, but I've always played hide and go seek. But um, I thought that was a really good kind of both sequences. The first time when the mom's playing and you kind of see the hands come out of the drawer, and then the girl's not even there. I thought that was kind of cool. But then especially when she gets locked in the basement and then she has the match lit and then the hands come out of nowhere and
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Nah, both of those moments are quite good. Like I say, it's a good movie with a lot of great moments. But I don't love it. It's good. So, with that
yeah.
said, it's time for ratings, Timmy.
Oh no, yeah, no. I mean, I'm trying to think if I want to counter that with an I love it because I don't
But you
know.
have to think about it, which means you probably
I feel
don't.
I feel like I'm sitting on the fence between like it and love it. Like maybe depending on the day and the mood, I could easily say that I love it. Um, but I don't know. I mean, without a doubt, 100% sure. Yeah, I definitely like it a lot. I think it's good, worth a watch. Maybe not something I'd watch all the time, but definitely something I can pop in every now and again. Um, what are we gonna rate this?
Oh, for claps out of 10, Timmy.
Claps out of 10. Okay. I feel like I'm skirting between a 7.5 and an 8. Since I feel like you're going to give it a little lower score, I'll just kind of teeter myself a little bit over the line and give it a solid 8.
You aren't far off for me. I'm going to give it 7.5.
Yes, that's what I figured.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tim, that my discussion over the past, 30 plus minutes gave you an indication of how I feel about the movie. I mean, how dare I? I should speak in the most boring, vague way possible, so you'd never know how I feel.
Apology accepted.
What's your Twitter and stuff?
All my social media stuff, you can find me at Tim Vargulish. So that's Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr. I'll be posting my pictures to go along with these episodes, along with links to them, which obviously, if you're hearing or listening to this, you don't need them, but hey, whatever. Also, make sure to like my comic book stuff at facebook.com/goatmancomics. If you like, no pressure, you don't have to like it, but I would appreciate it if you did. And, hopefully I will have some stuff to announce very soon. So basically what you're saying is the best thing someone can do to make sure they don't miss an episode is to subscribe and
Yes.
just keep checking out.
Subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on iTunes, subscribe whatever. And just keep involved. Just keep screaming.
Yeah. Keep dinging danging.
Keep dying.
Yeah.
That's been Screams After Midnight, guys. Keep watching scary movies. We'll see you next time, and as always,